person gonna keep being festive with you. That jolly person that the Santa's workshop I stormed on his first wish list. And he sat on Santa's lap and was like, yeah, I love Christmas cookies. And he had the whole year, all that. That was holly jolly. But we get presents to nice kids. Mm-hmm. Big dog, you supposed to be Santa's number one. Oh, no. And you're acting like a bum.
He sees you when you sleep.
I bet you better start being good for goodness sake.
We give that grace to young lighteners.
This is Survey Program. And folks are going to keep being festive with you here on Survey Program always. Mm-hmm. We keep it holly jolly, even though this has been a difficult. Here's a pro tip for you, the listener. If you ever decide to bear the curse and start your own podcast one day, if you think, oh, I've got sort of a Christmas, an episode that has like a Christmas tie-in, I should just record it the weekend before Christmas. Surely,
a great idea.
That's what you need to understand is that people will cancel on you. They'll cancel on you so hard. And it's almost like a completely unpaid podcast appearance is not more important than people's plans for Christmas.
That's bizarre. For
some reason. No, as you know, the official editorial stance of Survey Program Podcast is that guests can do no wrong. So if you've ever appeared or been scheduled to appear on this podcast, you are infallible, which means that it's fine that you canceled. That's okay. But what it does mean is that we did have a plan and an outline for this week's episode, and we are now sort of on our third string.
That's crazy. That's a crazy way to describe me.
Yeah, and so I had to turn to somebody who couldn't cancel on me.
I'm not a third string. I'm an elite quarterback off that got traded.
It's like Phillip Rivers. You're Phillip Rivers coming out of retirement.
I am not. I'm like Tom Brady coming out of retirement, okay? Don't put some respect on my fucking name.
Okay, you're third string for this episode.
By the way, guest on the two biggest episodes.
It's true,
that we
yes.
have, and I'm being billed like I'm a fucking, like I'm some, like
okay.
I might be eating pumpernickel, a whole slice of pumpernickel on the couch next to you, petting our cat.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not a professional, okay?
All right. And I'm just saying it's like a position player pitching here, because you are not... Well, when I told you about this episode...
Hold on. This is the Christmas episode, right?
That's exactly the thing. I told you about this episode. I was like, yeah, we're going to do an episode about December. And you were like, oh yeah, the Christmas episode. Not the episode about December. You thought it was an episode about...
Why did you say Des?
I thought, because their name is December.
No one calls her December. No one ever says
Tenna calls her December.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, my encyclopedic knowledge of Tenna will really come in fucking handy here. That's why I'm the first guest named on the fucking Tenna episode. I'm going to be number one.
Yeah.
1-1, pick one,
yeah.
round one.
The Tenna episode. I haven't done a Tenna episode. Mike could do.
Yeah.
He's certainly the unexpected.
You should get one of my freak friends with the sexual proclivity towards Tenna.
I really didn't want to have to edit this episode extensively because it is Christmas Eve. We are recording this on the same day it's releasing.
Gotta keep it holly jolly.
You gotta keep it holly jolly. Folks ain't gonna keep being festive with you.
So we're not talking about the season or even the holiday. We're talking about the strange reindeer that might be dead or a human.
She's not human. But before we get into that subject, I like to start the program with... Valerie's just fucking dying over here. I like to start the program with an overview of, any Deltarune news that happened since our last episode, and there's been quite a bit. So the first thing is we had a new newsletter drop, so that was super exciting. Mm-hmm. And speaking of December, it actually starts with cold water falls from the top of the sky, which is one of the prophecy lines. But there was a new video of a continuation of the newsletter cutscene. This is fucking ridiculous.
I turned away, and you still brought attention to it.
It's not like I can't edit it out. We're on the same track.
What if I had pneumonia?
What is pneumonia?
Like pneumonia, but the way that it's spelled,
I hate
like
you.
mnemonically. I just started seeing stars. I might be dying.
This is going to be a bad episode, folks.
No, don't foreground that.
All right, there's a new scene. There's a scene in the newsletter that's of the mics, our favored mics, which finally resolved the answer of are the minigame names also their names? With I guess Pluie thinks so.
What's your favorite Mike, Kate?
I love Pluie. How could you not? Well, no, actually, I like the Pippins. I think
I like the Pippin because he's,
Valerie thinks the green Pippins is low key nice with it.
he is low-key nice. He's cute. He's cute. His palette is nice. He's a little cute. Like when he gets angry.
He literally looks like this.
I know, he's cute. He's so cute. What is your favorite? Respond to the comments below.
Pause the podcast episode and say out loud which mic is your favorite.
Tell me.
At
me on Discord and tell me I'm the admin and tell me what at the admin role
At the admin role
on the Discord and tell me what your favorite
go to
is.
go to podcast channel on the Discord and say whether it's Pluie, Jongler, or Batat.
Yeah. Jongler? Oh god, I forgot that was his name.
Yeah. But anyway, there's a new scene. It's like we got like 5 minutes of cutscene in this newsletter, which is crazy. But I think it makes sense because Tenna is in this, and most players, I think, gave Tenna to Metaton, right? And so most players are not going to be able to see this scene of Tenna in their castle town. So I don't think you're showing too much by showing this to people.
I quite enjoy that that Tricky Tony has basically established a really critical fork in the road with which homosexual relationship you put Tenna in.
Yeah, that's true.
So, if you leave Tenna in Castletown, he gets a strange polyamorous homosexual relationship.
Yeah.
But if you make the correct choice, the editorial the line of the survey program podcast, the correct choice, and give him to Metaton, he has I saw the TV Glow romance.
That's true. I guess there's also a chance that Tenna could be dead in your save file.
And if so, I applaud you.
So that's definitely possible. That's so some players won't be able to see it because Tenna's dead. But yes, Tenna definitely cares about the size of Mike's ass.
It's good. It's quality.
Just spends the entire time moping about his ex.
Yep.
Just a gay television.
We got a GIF of Queen bawling.
We got a GIF of Queen bawling.
That matters more than basically everything else.
Yeah, we got Queen shimmying.gif.
Yeah, shake and bake.
Shake and bake. She's got a headband on. I hope that means there's a basketball minigame. That would be great. But we got a Chapter 5 status update. So the localization process is underway, which tells me that the script is pretty much locked.
Yeah. It says right here, it's just a week away.
Oh, Deltarune, just a week away. Deltarune is tomorrow, folks. No, it looks like the game, it says several months to release from now, which matches with the last update we got that the second half of the year looked more likely. So I would start saying Deltarune, although it's going to be funny to say Deltarune tomorrow every single day of 2026.
You should expect it as well.
I would expect that it would be July or later that we'll be seeing Chapter 6. Most of the battles in the game are done except for a couple, but they need some adjustments to pacing. The game contains hours of fun. I guess every chapter is a couple hours, but it does, I don't know, it sort of seems to me like this might be a longer one. Like,
I hope so.
Yeah. There's a new...
I hope it's like 20 hours long.
Yeah. There's probably won't be unless there's some sort of crazy unless we finally get the famed like the Castletown recruit battler mini game or something that I've been clamoring for. Mm-hmm. We also got a preview of a new song, which is apparently the only song that doesn't spoil something from the new chapters, but it's the shop music that Chris plays on the piano in Chapter 4 if you leave them alone for a while.
They're a special genius.
Yes.
A special genius.
Which is interesting. Chris playing a song before it appears. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is the soundtrack diegetic? Is it not? Is it diegetic for Chris only? These are questions that we'll get into. We got into a little bit in our episode about music with Ash Taylor, and we'll talk probably more about in the future as we learn more. But But an interesting tidbit in introducing that song was, quote, most of the remaining shopkeepers in the game use this music, which tells me there's multiple remaining shopkeepers, which is kind of interesting because there wasn't a shopkeeper in chapter 3 or 4 in the traditional sense.
Well, but right. There's no, like, shopkeeper.
There was the vending machine, Ram at the counter, and Gerson, right? They all acted as shopkeepers, but they didn't have the shopkeeper interface where they get their own song. And, Rule's card is tapping his foot.
Yeah.
There's also a look back at chapter 3 and 4. That was fun to see. More announcements on the collab with Square Enix. And the game's on sale. The game is on sale right now. If you're listening to this on release, if you're listening to this well after release, I'm sorry. You missed it. The game's no longer on sale. It's the first ever sale for Deltarune. It's 20% off. And if you don't own Deltarune, why are you listening to this podcast? Well, you can buy it for a friend. That one friend that you've been trying to get to play Deltarune for months and months.
Yippee.
You can buy it for them for less money. But there was also a follow-up to this newsletter, which subscribers got another email that said, another chance, with a return to the same cryptic message from prior to the Chapter 3 and 4 release, which was, how long did it take her to smile? And all you got was a place to put your email and a place to put your answer of how long it took her to smile. When this first round happened, nothing happened from anybody's responses, right? But this time around, there were a number of responses. So people got different responses based on their insert. And I think the most common interpretation of this, and Valerie has just encountered this for the first time, I think.
I don't know anything about this. I'm sorry.
And so most people's interpretation of this was that it's about... Now that 3 and 4 come out, now we know it's like, how long did it take her to smile? A lot of people are interpreting it's about Noelle, and it's about the weird root, potentially.
Yeah.
And so there's a few different options. There's like 4 chapters. And, like if you say 4 chapters, you get it's the first time she ever smiled in her life. If you answer she was already smiling, you get she never stopped smiling. Short durations like 30 seconds, 20 seconds got before the sun went down. 1 day or at the festival, or then the next day you'll see her smile, which is ominous. And if you had said, who is Noelle, you get, what is this, a game show? If you answer a longer duration, like 6 years or more, it was the first time she smiled since she was a child. If you answered until she met Susie or any other character name, I think, the response is aw. Aw. And then one of the interesting things is you answer 0, you get she never stopped smiling. But the interesting thing for this episode subject is if you answer 1225, the response is, when you have a bat, everything looks like a ball. Which is very, very interesting. There's a number of those. Some folks have been doing a great job cataloging and verifying the responses that people got to their emails. Shout out to the Andrew Cunningham Discord server, the hive of insanity that we talked about in our last episode, who have been doing great work on this. I haven't been following as closely as I'd like to because it's been super busy here in the survey program household for Christmas. But that's some exciting stuff. And, I imagine we had a bit of a fallow period. I imagine we're going to have some more exciting, we're going to have more news to talk about, right? The trickle's going to keep coming.
It's going to start tinkling.
It's going to start tingling. It's going to start tinkling. I don't think that's very good. And so I do want to pivot to, this was going to be, as I talked about, we're kind of scrambling here. It's emergency mode of that survey program. So I don't want this to be seen as sort of the definitive December episode, the definitive Des episode, because I know we've got members of the panel that originally wanted to be on this episode that do want to talk more about Des, and I want to give them the chance too. So obviously Des is very important, and we're going to learn much more about her. So don't treat this as the only time we're going to address Des, just one of the first times. We're going to start to lay out what we know.
Yes.
And so just a bit of background to understand December. when the first chapter initially released, we get a couple of oblique references. The angel doll in Rudy's hotel room was made by Noelle and Des. Noelle outright refers to her, formerly hitting Chris with a wiffle ball bat when Chris would prank Noelle.
Yeah.
But that's about all we got. We didn't know where she was. We didn't really get a sense of her missing either, right? So there was, very limited understanding. I think I assumed or just thought, okay, she's off screen, because you don't see Noelle's house or anything, or she's off screen, or she's in college or something like that, right? You don't really know. And then as we move forward with the game, we got more outright info, including the outright confirmation that there's some trauma there for Noelle with the spelling bee scene in chapter 2, and her sort of wistfully talking about, Des always saying she'd take her to see a place like the Dark World. And then we got some real juicy stuff in the Spampton Sweepstakes ARG after chapter 2's release, where we got the narrative stories, we got all sorts of little references. And then chapter 3 and 4 were the Despocalypse, where there was,
pouring down.
Yes, where, even starting in chapter 3, like, Ten is constantly talking about December's absence, and the impact that had, the parental controls on the TV to stop her from being a bad influence on Chris, and the fact that she used to be in a band and play guitar and set up for that musical segment where Chris is following in her footsteps again. And then in chapter 4, you go into her room, right? You go into the, into the room. You get this sort of outright confirmation that she's missing, that there's she's the lost girl from there's been reference. She's the lost girl from Song. And so we got a ton more information about Des. And also, just in general, we understand more about the Holiday family dynamic, right? And so we've returned to this a number of times. We did a Weird Root episode. We did an episode on Carol and Toriel. But, the Des is like the key to understanding. Like, it seems like, you get that flashback scene in chapter 3, both families, everybody gathered around the TV, and after Des disappears, everybody falls apart one by one, right? They all fade out. And so she's the missing piece of the Holiday family, and after that, everything in both these families has, gone to shit.
Yeah. Asgore lost his wife, lost his house, lost his car, lost his non-binary, lost his boyfriend.
It's true. It's all really, let's think about the real victim of December's disappearance, Asgore.
It's true. It's true. Let's talk about who really lost out. Not making any references to facile and childish memography surrounding Asgore and his truck.
Yeah.
We're not talking about any of that. If you want to find that, you can go to a more facile, child-oriented podcast that cares about these kinds of things.
Driving in my car just after.
This is a serious analytical podcast.
Hey, that bump
looks just like Ezra.
Looks just like Ezra. All right. But let's talk about her relationships to each of these figures in this collapse. And so, Noelle clearly misses her deeply, looks up to her, idolizes her, and there's definitely a gap. As Rudy straight up says, there used to be, when Rudy and December were there was a balance, right, where Carol's sort of overbearingness and controlling nature had a counter, and without that, it's out of balance, and Noelle is sort of lost herself, right? She's
something of a lost girl herself.
So something of a lost girl herself. And there's that interesting relationship too with Carol, because there's, everything we know about Des, the broken objects scattered about, the sort of grungy military aesthetic,
the
weed. This is a rebel, right? This is somebody who I think probably bristled. We don't know a lot explicitly, but probably bristled at the relationship with her mother, with Carol, with having such a straight-laced, controlling politician type. And so with Carol, but it's interesting because Carol seems to be the most motivated in, discovering what happened to Des, working on this this outright conspiracy with Chris and Asgore, to try and figure it out. Very protective. She's preserved Des's room exactly as it was. Somebody touching it, not just because obviously somebody touching it, disturbing it is a big deal because there's the shelter code in the guitar, right?
Yeah.
But I think beyond just the literal fact that there's a shelter code there, like that room being disturbed is disturbing to Carol, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's it's upsetting to have it, to have that balance, to have that sort of perfectly preserved in amber, relationship.
Museum, mausoleum.
Yeah, like exactly, like touched. It's like an acknowledgement that something's changing. And so I guess that's an open question of like one of the big open questions is like, what was Carol and Des's relationship like? Maybe Carol got worse after this, right? Like, maybe she wasn't quite so controlling and overbearing prior to this.
Yeah, it's I think it's a fair bet.
Yeah.
Like you said, the balance got thrown out completely.
Yeah. And obviously we also got a little bit of a tidbit of, one of Azrael's shirts is in December's room.
Yeah. Retainer.
Yeah, his retainer, a CD. He got a CD of religious ska.
Yep.
That there was a relationship between Des and Azrael. And, that sort of mirrors the, like, childhood puppy love relationship that Noelle and Chris had as well.
Sure.
And as well, the sort of chemistry between Asgore and Rudy as well. That there's a lot of entanglements. We talked about this a little bit in episode 3, but there's a lot of entanglements between these families that all sort of mirror each other. And it's interesting because all of them have broken down in their own ways, and now like Carol and Toriel won't even refer to each other by name. And it's interesting to think about. And Azrael, very he's another one of those missing pieces, right? He's away at college, and we don't know how he feels about any of this, right? He's this bright star who is gone, and
he's the only one in the town who made it to college.
Yeah, he made it to college. He's out. Yeah, everyone else is stuck in dead-end jobs. Yeah, everyone else from his group is either Des, who's missing, or is stuck in dead-end, soulless jobs,
or just a shut-in.
Yeah, for
like Metaton and Mad Dummy.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like there's this claustrophobic sense about hometown, right? And I think people who grew up in small towns like you and I both did can relate to that, of that feeling of like, oh fuck, like if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna be working at Icy's Pizza, and it's just gonna suck they have a way of trapping you, right? And so Azrael and Des both feel like emblematic of that desire to escape, and Azrael obviously did it quote unquote the good way, right? By being a scholar who everybody likes, and who is the bright child who went to college, and then Des doing it in the rebellious way that we still don't fully understand what the circumstances for. We don't know whether she ran away. We don't know whether she disappeared. We don't know whether she died. We don't know how she's almost certainly appearing as the Night. Yeah. Is that literally physically her? Is it some projection of her will? Is it some reflection, some dark reflection? Like, we don't know what the Night is. And I'll talk about that a little bit in our next section.
In regards to Des being absent, okay. In regards to Des's like role in the story so far, I'm not really an analytical expert on Des, but what I do feel about it is that I quite like the like density of like funk of like something really bad happened, something really weird and bad happened, either that she did or that happened to her, but she's gone in some way, and the sort of dread, the sort of pall cast over this, especially 3 and 4, is truly tremendous.
Yeah.
It feels great. And again, as someone who grew up in a small town, it really feels like, just like, if you can't get out of a small town, right? Obviously, she might have had the financial means, but not the will, right? Not the desire. It really feels like, well, I may as well just kill myself and blow up town hall.
Yeah.
You know, like, especially if you're, like, in any way queer. I don't know, obviously she was dating Asriel, but, like, it really feels like when you grow up in a small town and you feel estranged by your circumstances, as we can kind of infer from, you know, the fact that her aesthetics run so counter to her entire bright and cheery Christmas family, you know?
Yeah.
You know, she's a hockey player, she's, like, grungy, whereas military surplus stuff, it's a stoner, you know? You can kind of infer a level of distance and difference, you know? And in the circumstance that I was in, the circumstance that she was in, I would have wanted to, you know, to blow up town hall.
Yeah.
I would have wanted to probably do the same shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I'll create a dark, you know, I'll do some dark shit with an alternate magical world that might cause the end of the world. Who knows? Of course.
Yeah.
Fuck this town. Fuck its stupid religion. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And there's certainly, I don't know, I think a lot of people assume that Carol is just straightforwardly in league with the Knight, and I think it's I think that's far from assured. That, you know, that the conspiracy could be working at cross purposes with the Knight, and that, you know, I would I just want to caution people against making too many assumptions about what side everybody's on here, because it all seems to be a bit of a complicated mess. But thinking about the Paul, thinking about the trap of the small town, I mean, I simply must talk about Twin Peaks for a bit, because
I know nothing about,
which Valerie knows nothing about, and
it was 2.5 episodes.
Yeah, but I want to maybe do more of a whole episode about Twin Peaks. So I won't get into spoiler territory for Twin Peaks right here, because I know a lot of people haven't seen it. But what everybody knows and what's established in the first episode is that Twin Peaks is the story of a lost girl, right? Twin Peaks is the story of a small town that's very similar to Hometown in a lot of ways, and it has, you know, the sort of precipitation of the whole plot is the murder of Laura Palmer, and so, you know, when our investigator, when our ostensible hero Dale Cooper arrives, you think that the story is, you know, okay, the homecoming queen was murdered, and you see the pall it casts over the community. Like, one of the most striking things about the Twin Peaks pilot is it sort of takes a circumstance you see on TV 20 times a week. You know, every week, every night on network television, there's some story about, you know, there's a cop show about a murdered girl, right? Yeah. And instead of just treating it as table stakes, you actually watch that, you know, you watch the community break down. You watch the people break down in tears. You watch the way that it impacts everybody in this town. And it's really raw and human. And the other thing is, and this is where the parallels to Des come in, is that you really learn that Laura is not just like an innocent victim, right? That Laura, that there was a lot more than just, you know, just being she's more than just a murdered girl, right? She, you know, she was involved in the local drug trade. She was involved with local gangs. She was two-timing people. Like, she was involved with gamblers, and like she was a rebel in her own way from the confining circumstances of her life, and expressed that rebellion through a like escalating series of irresponsible actions to feel alive, that, you know, ended up culminating in her murder. And I'm not saying she's responsible for her murder, of course, and nor is the show, right? But like that, you know, to feel alive, to try to break out of those constraints, you know, these two characters, Laura and Des, both got involved with forces beyond what people would expect of, you know, the scion of a powerful family in a small town, you know, a young girl. And so I think that there's some very important parallels there. And without getting into too much of a spoiler territory, I think that's also important where, you know, you see Des as you know, seeing Des as the knight, which again, I was planning to finally address that and get into the ins and outs. Because of the switch in guests, I wasn't ready to talk about that this episode. So we'll do another night episode at another time.
Yep.
But again, we are just proceeding that Des is the knight because it's way cool. The story's way cooler if Des is the knight than anybody else.
Yeah.
And Twin Peaks also, especially in the return, in season 3, 2017, which I think is probably interesting to think about because it was airing at around the same time that Deltarune's script was being written, was being polished for Chapter 1's release. And so I think it's not out of the realm of the possibility that it's influential. And of course, the first 2 seasons were extremely influential on Japanese game developers. Twin Peaks was huge in Japan. It's a big influence on Earthbound and on other RPGs and on other Japanese games of the time period. And so there's also there's a great video essay on Twin Peaks in Deltarune that I'll show you that argues that there's some direct parallels there beyond just the general vibe, the similar circumstance of the plot.
Yeah.
But I think that there's. But anyways, as you look towards the continuation of Twin Peaks, one of the main through lines is like from Firewalk with Me into season 3 is that doing what most sort of murder mystery shows don't do and give the victim agency, right? Mm-hmm. Show the agency of Laura, show her influence on the plot, even have her influence things posthumously, through sort of magical spiritual means. But I think that's such a tremendous subversion of the damsel in distress of the lost girl, right? The fact that Des is more than just an innocent missing girl, more than just a victim of circumstance.
No, she seems like she low-key sucks.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. She abuses. She was whacking Chris in the head with a bat so hard that it hurt.
Yeah.
The very memory of the bat hurt.
Yeah.
I think
in the night fight, you get all the messages about these sort of sympathetic injuries.
Yeah, you feel a bat behind your head.
Yeah.
I think it's great that she sucks. That she probably sucks.
And there's also the element of the knight is careless and destructive with darkness. Doesn't seem to value them at all.
Yeah.
Will casually kill Jackenstein and Tenna. Will just sort of leaves a path of destruction in its wake. And this is another parallel with Des, right? Where Des has destroyed objects littered throughout her room, expensive gifts, instruments and all sorts of stuff just destroyed in her room. Yeah. And how she treats objects seems to mirror how the knight treats darkness, right? Mm-hmm. And also how Des treated Chris. Just the violence balled up in and inherent in the knight and Des, they mirror each other very similarly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And there is another thing where as you mentioned, Des is sort of aesthetic mismatch with the rest of her family. There's also at least from what we see, the flannel and the military fatigues. There's a gender presentation
for sure
mismatch from expectations there as well, right?
For sure, yeah. I love to kill myself so that I can become an epic badass knight with a big sword. I do I'm sympathetic to it, even though I don't have a lot of theory locked and loaded on it. I do quite like Des Transmask theories or readings along that way of railing against the sort of assignment you were given of being part of this nice, cute family with the little bows and the hairs and the Christmas, in the Christmas sweaters and everything, and being just a shithead who smokes weed and wears military gear and either dies or does something weird and becomes a fucked up badass knight. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. And there's that again where when we talk about this stuff, we're not saying somebody's going to turn to the camera and textually say, I am X gender identity, right? Because that's just not how it works.
I identify as a they, them.
Yeah. That's not how it works in this story, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, as we talked about in the Halloween hack episode, like, that's the one constant through line in Toby Fox's writing of queer characters, is that their queerness is evident in their actions and their behavior relative to expectations, rather than being an explicitly spelled out identity category.
Right. And the action and behavior of becoming a cool knight that cuts people in half with an evil sword. It's pretty transmasculine to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, right, exactly. And you know, this also goes back to our episode that we did about Man Country, about Chris, you know, and about what the sword symbolizes, what violence symbolizes, and the violence tied to, you know, masculine expectation in the story and in its setting. And so, you know, Chris is you know, when Chris kneels at the end of the night, you know, at the end of the night fight, the script is knighting, right? Like, Chris is being knighted. Chris is the
squire.
Yeah, Chris is the squire. Chris is the scion of this knight, and also was similarly, you know, Des was a bad influence on them that Toriel tried to you know, stop, and so there was some sort of in league with element to Chris and Des's relationship that, you know, Des is a bad influence. Des, you know, and the knight's a bad influence on Chris as well, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And obviously we have a very limited way in, because this picture is being deliberately obscured from us, the player, by Chris, right? Chris is trying to avoid us getting too much insight into this, but it's just inevitable that we're going to find out more, and I think that's very exciting. Yeah,
you know, sometimes when you are a queer person in a small town, you drift towards the evilest.
I hung out with the bad kids, you know.
I hung out with so many evil ass kids.
Yeah, I hung out with the bad kids, and, you know, you and I, we had very different school. You know, I was the very, like, straight laced, like, nerdy kid, but I hung out with the bad kids because I knew I was different in some way, and you know.
I hung out with the emos who would show me pictures of Jeff the Killer on their flip phones to scare me. As an athlete, I would hang out with all of these emo kids that would show me these photos. So yeah, because that's just what you do when you're a queer person in a small town.
Yeah. And there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of her relationships, which is basically nobody else talks about her. Like, those direct, you know, those folks that we were just laying out, right? Like, the immediate families, the Holiday and Dreamer families do talk about her, right? Almost nobody else brings her up at all.
Yeah, all of her classmates, they don't talk about her.
Yeah. And there's that other element of, like, that's what, like, a nice small town does with the bad kids, right?
It's true.
You know, that
you basically excise them before they die.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of cut them out. You know, once you pass the trial period of, like, you know, this is a kid with a good heart, you kind of just get excised, you know? You get taken out of the picture of what's talking about, you know, at all. What's included in you know, town stuff and family gossip, you know? You pass the stage and you just get fully exiled from society. You know? And that's what happens in small towns. You can just get completely exiled, completely booted. And I do get that impression. It's a really good point, actually, that happened to her maybe before she left.
Yeah.
Before something happened to her, you know? That she was just kind of shifted out of the town, you know? The consciousness of the town.
Yeah.
Of her classmates, you know? And to a degree, it could just be that people don't want to face it.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course, that it's uncomfortable. You know, that maybe whatever happened was maybe partially their fault. But again, this is idle speculation because I don't know what happened to Des.
Yeah, we're doing an episode about really of something that we're seeing through a very small fractured lens. Yeah. But also, you originally thought this was going to be a Christmas episode, and so there's a ton of Christmas symbolism in the, you know, I mean, the main character is called Christmas.
She's the Grinch.
Yeah, Carol is the Grinch. Carol has some face sprites.
I meant Des.
Oh, Des is not the Grinch.
She's low-key the Grinch.
Carol has some face sprites that look like the Jim Carrey Grinch, which is so funny. But like, yeah, so, you know, since this is also the Christmas, we're releasing this on Christmas Eve, so we can talk a little bit about that as well. You know, when you originally thought this was the Christmas episode, what did you want to talk about with Christmas in Deltarune?
What did I want to talk about with Christmas in Deltarune? I don't know. I was gonna look at the candy cane sword and stuff.
Yeah. That was Noel's pencil.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar. Let me think. Christmas. Okay. What I was going to talk about, I think primarily is that I think I think it's interesting coding. It's called Christmas, for God's sake. Like it's named Christmas, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting coding as like a concentration as a reflection of a concentration of religious loyalty, and devotion in the town. You know, like the town does not have Christianity per se, but it's kind of a cathedral, you know, or you know, a small town like New England Protestant, you know, chapel that they go to. And the faith is not outwardly Christian in any way, but they do celebrate Christmas, and I think that's really interesting. That they celebrate a Christian holiday, or at least that these people are named after a Christian holiday, you know. And I think that's kind of very obvious religious like coding, you know.
And people have suggested that Chris's name is
Christmas.
That Chris's name might be in full Christmas, or at least was suggested to, or as a homage to the holiday family. And I also think it's some suggestion of Chris as a foundling, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
You know, we don't know anything about Chris's origin other than Toriel, you know, looking up information about how to care for a young human.
Yeah.
We don't know where Chris is from, or how they got into hometown, or why they're the only human in a town full of monsters. We don't even... We know that humans exist in the setting and are mundane because there's a book about, you know, how to care for human children.
Yeah.
But that's it. And also that looking at that makes Chris uncomfortable because Chris has species dysphoria. But like, you know, I do think there's an element there of Chris as a foundling, and I do wonder if we might get some more information on that front in the future. I mean, is Chris a Christ figure?
I don't know.
Probably not. We saw Noel get crucified.
They are the baby. They are the baby.
They are the baby.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Baby Jesus.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. Anything else you wanted to hit before we wrapped? Wrapped, like Christmas, wrapping.
Christmas presents, wrapping.
Folks ain't gonna keep being holly jolly with you.
We give that grace to young lighteners.
Oh, I like TV dinner.
I like TV dinner.
that young player character that took the Dark World by storm.
Used to be our first character.
But now
Used to be our number one save. Now you're acting like a 3.
Because so I think we're gonna.
What color do you think Des is?
That's a great question.
This is because you have on here Fanon.
Yes,
Fanon
most of her fan designs have her like dark brown fur. It'd be funny if she was blonde. It would be really funny if she was blonde
Ezra.
like Carol. Now Ezra, so Ezra has just started attacking, and there's 3 crows looking in at where we're recording, waiting for Peanuts, and it's Christmas Eve.
At the admin role on the Discord with what color you think Des is, and we will get back to you within 30 seconds.
That's not true.
With a response. It is true, it's certified true. At the admin role, do it twice, do it 3 times. Kate loves it.
Tell Valerie whether you think Pluie or Batat or Jongler is the best mic.
Which one is the best mic? And don't call them Pluie. We hashtag.
Well, Pluie likes to be called Pluie, so it's kind of dead naming and problematic. Low key.
I wish he would get out of the costume.
It's Low Kirkuinly problematic to not call him Pluie.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! And a Happy New Year. Sorry about the short episode, everybody, but, you know, it's Christmas. Just be glad there's an episode at all.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We've got at least 20-something shows planned for you in 2026. And again, after the new chapter's release, we'll go back to weekly whenever that comes.
Yep.
Super excited for 2026. Thanks for making this first few months of the podcast so fun, everybody. You can join the Discord. That's at the link in the description. You have to do that if you want to ping us.
If you want to ping the admin role.
If you just need anything, if you want a glass of water, just ping the admin role, and I'll get that for you as soon as I can.
If you feel like getting me a Christmas present, if you feel like going above and beyond, you can support the show at groupofshrike.net. That gets you Green Room. We've got 2 bonus episodes, and a third is going to come out on New Year's Eve, where I'm going to talk about the best movies I watched this year. Not the best movies that came out this year, although some of them did come out this year. I'm going to talk about all of the best movies that I watched this year. All the, even the ones that I rewatched, even the ones from before that I saw. Just a yearly recap where I talk a little bit about some film. We've got an episode about one battle after another. We got an episode about Doctor Who as well on there.
What should I get from Taco Bell?
Oh yeah, and we're gonna go get Taco Bell.
Ping the admin role in Discord if you want to tell me what I should get from Taco Bell.
But we're gonna already have gotten Taco Bell by the time you're listening to this.
Just ping it again, just in case.
So I guess just predict, I guess, what we got from Taco Bell.
Tell me what you think I ordered.
I know what
Taco
I'm
Bell.
getting.
Well, don't spoil
I'm not gonna tell you though. Yeah, if you get it right, if you know what I'm getting and you get it right.
Subscribe on Group with Strike to find out what Kate got from Taco Bell.
No, I'll just tell you in the Discord. You can listen on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, right directly on the website by typing in groupofstrike.net, by going into your own podcast app. I use Overcast. I really like it. What's all the other shit I say? That's it. The music for this episode is by Highwell. And also that introduction was the Holly Jolly Cam Newton edit that is funny.
Ping us on the Discord if you think it's funny.
Yeah, ping us on the Discord if you think our constant Cam Newton references are funny, which you definitely. Merry Christmas! Bye!
Strike Amalgamated General Productions GmbH.